Reasonable Doubt is the debut album of American rapper Jay-Z, released on June 25, 1996, by Roc-A-Fella Records and Priority Records. It features production by DJ Premier, Ski, Knobody and Clark Kent, and guest appearances from Memphis Bleek, Mary J. Blige, and the Notorious B.I.G., among others. Reasonable Doubt features mafioso rap themes and gritty lyrics about the hustler lifestyle and material obsessions. The album peaked at number 23 on the US Billboard 200, on which it charted for 18 weeks. It was promoted with 4 singles, including the Hot 100 charting Ain't No Nigga, and Can't Knock the Hustle. Reasonable Doubt has been certified platinum by the Recording Industry Association of America and, as of 2006, has sold 1.5 million copies in the United States. Well received by critics upon its release, the album has since been heralded by music writers as Jay-Z's crowning achievement, a seminal work, and an undisputed classic. It appears on numerous best album lists by music publications, including The Source, Blender, and Rolling Stone, which ranked it number 248 on their list of the 500 greatest albums of all time. Background: in 1989, aspiring rapper Jay-Z was recruited by mentor Jaz-O to appear on his song Hawaiian Sophie. He appeared on 2 more Jaz-O songs in the next year, but after Jaz-O was dropped from his record label, Jay-Z dealt drugs to support himself. He continued to pursue a rap career and appeared on 2 songs from Original Flavor's 1993 album Beyond Flavor. Jay-Z then caught Big Daddy Kane's attention and toured with him. They collaborated on Kane's 1994 Posse Cut Show and Prove along with Wu-Tang Clan's Ol' Dirty Bastard, Wu-Tang affiliate Shy'm, Source Money, and Scoob Lover. Despite the exposure he received from Kane, Jay-Z was still without a record deal. He began selling tapes from his car with help from friend Damon Dash. The success of his street-level marketing led to a deal with Payday Records, which released his first solo single, In My Lifetime, and its B-side I Can't Get With Dat. In an unconventional move, Jay-Z then spurned the record contract he had long sought and left Payday Records to form his own label, Roc-A-Fella Records, with Damon Dash and Kareem Biggs Burke. Jay-Z later explained that he thought he could do a better job of marketing his records on his own. Payday eventually signed me to a deal, but were acting shady the whole time, like they didn't know how to work a record or something, says Jay. The things that they were setting up for me I could have done myself. They had me traveling places to do in stores, and my product wasn't even available in the store. We shot 1 video, but when the time came for me to do the video for the second single, I had to be cut out. They gave me the money and I started my own company. There was a little arguing back and forth, but our conflict finally got resolved. The bottom line was they wasn't doing their job, so I had to get out of there. Jay-Z rented a small, cheap office for Roc-A-Fella Records on John Street in one of the dreariest parts of the busiest city in the world. Jay-Z and his compatriots thought of their low-rent headquarters as a starting point that would eventually lead them to Manhattan. In 1995 and early 1996, Jay-Z appeared on records by Big L and Mike Geronimo, further raising his profile. At this point, he was still considered an underground rapper with a New Jack style. Roc-A-Fella released Reasonable Doubt with Priority Records. Recording: Reasonable Doubt was recorded at D&E Studios and mixed at Platinum Island, however, its beats were formed elsewhere. Can't Knock the Hustle was produced by Knobody at his mother's home in 1994, while the vocals were recorded on tour at a studio in Tampa, Florida named Progressive Music with Mary J. Blige. Ski produced Feelin' It, and Politics as Usual while recording with Camp Lo. The recording sessions for the album were generally dominated by competition. Ski and Clark Kent created similar beats for Politics as Usual, but Ski submitted his to Jay-Z first, causing his to appear on the album. Brooklyn's Finest was a competitive, though friendly battle between Jay-Z and the Notorious B.I.G., in which Jay-Z tried proving that he is of Biggie's caliber, while Biggie tried brushing his rhymes off as insignificant. Although the rappers had already met on the set for the Dead President's music video, they discovered that neither wrote down their rhymes while recording. The recording of Brooklyn's Finest spanned 2 months and moved from D&D Studios to Giant Studios where the Clark Kent sung chorus was recorded. The studio sessions affected Jay-Z mentally, as he told Rolling Stone, "The studio was like a psychiatrist's couch for me." Composition: Reasonable Doubt has Mafioso rap themes. David Drake of Stylus magazine considers the lyrics to be characterized by gritty realism. Journalist Dream Hampton explains Jay-Z's lyrics saying, "MCs had definitely touched on hustling. But Jay talks about what it can do to a person's inner peace, and what it can do to their mind." Alma 6 Steve Huey describes him as a street hustler from the projects who rapped about what he knew and he was very, very good at it. Detailing his experiences on the streets with disarming honesty. Huey summarizes the album's subject matter saying, "He's cocky, bordering on arrogant, but playful and witty, and exudes an effortless, unaffected cool throughout. And even if he's rapping about rising to the top instead of being there, his material obsessions are already apparent." The album's defining cut might be the brief 22 twos, which not only demonstrates Jay-Z's extraordinary talent as a pure freestyle rapper, but also preaches a subtle message through its club hostess: bad behavior gets in the way of making money. Perhaps that's why Jay-Z waxes reflective, not enthusiastic, about the darker side of the streets. Alma 6 Steve Birchmaria writes that the album's production exhibits characteristics of the pre-gangster era, a foregone era when samples fueled the beats and turntablism supplied the hooks, which sets Reasonable Doubt apart from Jay-Z's later work. Can't Knock the Hustle features a smooth beat. Politics as Usual has an R&B sound and a sample of Hurry Up This Way Again by the Stylistics. Dead President samples Nas' voice from The World Is Yours in its chorus. According to IGN's Spence D., Ski brings back the stripped-down piano fill style, lending the track a late-night jazz vibe on Feelin' It, and 22 Twos has a mournful jazz-inclined groove that prominently features string instruments. Coming of Age contains a Clark Kent-produced beat that samples the melody and drums from Inside You by Eddie Henderson. Reception, commercial performance. After its release on June 25, 1996, the album peaked at number 23 on the Billboard 200. It spent 18 weeks on the chart, and 55 weeks on the Billboard Top R&B Hip Hop Albums, on which it reached number 3. By the end of 1996, it had sold 420,000 copies in the United States. On February 7, 2002, Reasonable Doubt was certified platinum by the Recording Industry Association of America, for shipments of 1 million copies in the U.S. 4 singles Dead Presidents, Ain't No Nigga, Can't Knock the Hustle, and Feelin' It were released in promotion of Reasonable Doubt. Dead Presidents is the only single that did not chart, though it was certified gold by the Recording Industry Association of America. The second single, Ain't No Nigga, featuring Foxy Brown, was the most commercially successful single, reaching number 50 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 1 on the Hot Dance Music Maxi single sales. Can't Knock the Hustle, the third single, features guest vocals by Mary J. Blige and reached number 73 on the Billboard Hot 100, making it the second most successful single on the album, and number 30 on the UK singles chart, making it the most successful single in the United Kingdom. The fourth and final single was Feelin' It, which reached number 79 on the Billboard Hot 100. Critical response: the album was well received by music critics upon its release. Entertainment Weekly gave it a B+ rating, while Charlie Braxton of The Source gave it 4 out of 5 mix. The magazine later revised it to its classic 5 mic rating, and in 1998, it was listed one of The Source's 100 best rap albums. Alma 6 Steve Huey noted that its lyrical appeal lies within Jay's effortless, unaffected cool flow, disarming honesty, and his knack for writing some of the most acrobatic rhymes heard in quite some time. Huey writes that this lyrical depth helps Reasonable Doubt rank as one of the finest albums of New York's hip-hop renaissance of the 90s. Fellow Allmusic writer Jason Birchmaria claims that Jay-Z's lyrics are candidly professional, but it's the producers more so than Jay-Z himself that make this album so untouchable. Birchmaria remarks that the album boasts an amazing roster of producers, and Steve John agrees, describing Ski, Clark Kent and E.J. Premier as the best beatmakers in rap. John also recognizes the album's lyrical strength and describes the album's reception, saying, "This is not only the definitive album from H to the Itzo's catalog, it's one of the 10 most important rap records of the entire 1990s. It's possible to live without having heard it, but after you do, you'll wonder how you ever managed without it." Even nearly 6 years later, this album stands up to the best production and strongest lyricism coming out of any rap around the globe. If an album could be said to have made corny MCs into Jay-Z haters, this is the one. In his Consumer Guide for the Village Voice, Robert Christgau gave the album a 1-star honorable mention rating. In a 2011 review, he revised it to an A rating. He wrote, in retrospect, "Designed for the hip-hop cognoscenti and street aesthetes who still swear he never topped it, his self-financed debut album is richer than any outsider could have known, and benefits from everything we've since learned about the minor crack baron who put his money where his mouth was." You can hear him marshalling a discipline known to few rappers and many crack barons, and that asceticism undercuts the intrinsic delight of his rhymes. Accolades: Reasonable Doubt ranks on top of albums lists by Rolling Stone, Vibe, and Hip Hop Connection. Legacy and influence: hip-hop music. The album's success helped popularize mafioso rap and its associated imagery of high-class and expensive lifestyles, including drinking Crystal, driving Lexus automobiles, and living out the plots of films such as Scarface and Carlito's Way. This in turn displaced gangster rap as the dominant style of hip-hop at the time. Stylus magazine writer Evan McGarvey claims that hustler rap group The Clips try emulating Jay-Z's Reasonable Doubt sound on their 2006 song We Got It for Cheap. Reasonable Doubt is often considered one of hip-hop's landmark albums, according to Pitchfork Media's Ryan Schreiber. It is compared to the Notorious B.I.G.'s Ready to Die and Nel's Illmatic as a classic hip-hop album. Subsequent work by Jay-Z, despite being the lowest-charting Jay-Z album, it is often considered his best record. Carter himself lists it as number 1 on a list of his albums from best to worst. It differs from his future albums in its lack of pop crossover songs and chart-topping hits. Jay-Z's follow-up to Reasonable Doubt, In My Lifetime, Volume 1 was primarily produced by Sean Diddy Combs and his team of producers, the Hitmen. Future Jay-Z albums included production by Combs, the Neptunes, Timbaland and Swizz Beatz and later Kanye West. Shane Reed of MTV explains, Reasonable Doubt might not have the radio hits or club bangers of many of his other albums, but it may be Jay at his most lyrical and certainly at his most honest, according to him. Jay-Z has said that recreating Reasonable Doubt would be challenging, as he was living a different lifestyle with a completely different state of mind when he wrote the album. Ian Cohen of Stylus magazine writes of his significance in context of Jay-Z's catalog. Reasonable Doubt was the come-up, The Blueprint was the comeback, and the Black Album may not have found him at his strongest lyrically, but it gained gravitas from meta-awareness and introspection. 10th Anniversary Concert. In 2006, Jay-Z performed the songs from Reasonable Doubt at the Radio City Music Hall to celebrate its 10th anniversary. The concert's band included the Roots drummer Questlove, the Illadelphonics, a 50-piece orchestra dubbed the Hustlers Symphony, and Just Blaze, the performance's disc jockey. On Can't Knock the Hustle, Bianca Copyright Knowles replaced Mary J. Blige, who was preparing for her breakthrough tour at the time. Jay-Z rapped the Notorious B.I.G.'s verses on Brooklyn's Finest, and Jaz-O's verse was left out of Bring It On. Jay-Z added a verse to 22 Twos in which he says variations of the words for 444 times over the beat of Can I Kick It? By A Tribe Called Quest. Other alterations include Jay-Z changing a lyrical mention of Crystal to Don Pa copyright Rignon and Jay-Z's band Spruik-ing up tracks like Regrets to add more energy. Celebrities such as Alicia Keys, Young Jeezy, Jadakiss, Chris Tucker, LeBron James and Carmelo Anthony attended the concert. 3,000 tickets were put on sale. All were sold within 2 minutes according to Roc-A-Fella Records website. Track listing, notes, Can't Knock the Hustle contains additional vocals from Pain in Das. Brooklyn's Finest contains additional vocals from Pain in Das, and DJ Clark Kent. Feelin' It contains additional vocals from Mecca. 22 Twos contains dialogue from Mary Davis. Ain't No Nigga contains additional vocals from Khadija Bass, and Big Jazz. Sample credits: Can't Knock the Hustle contains samples of Much Too Much by Marcus Miller, I Know You Got Soul by Eric B. and Rakim, and interpolations of Fool's Paradise by Melissa Morgan, and dialogue from the film Scarface. Politics As Usual contains a sample of Hurry Up This Way Again by the Stylistics. Brooklyn's Finest contains samples of Ecstasy by the Ohio Players, Brooklyn Zoo by Old Dirty Bastard, and interpolates dialogue from the film Carlito's Way. Dead Presidents 2 contains samples of A Garden of Peace by Lonnie Liston Smith and The World Is Yours by Nas. Feelin' It contains a sample of Pastures by Ahmad Jamal. Devils contains samples of Go Back Home by Alan Toussaint, I Shot Ya by LL Cool J, and Murder Was the Case by Snoop Dogg. 22 Twos contains an interpolation of Can I Kick It? by A Tribe Called Quest. Can I Live contains a sample of The Look of Love by Isaac Hayes. Ain't No Nigga contains a sample of 7 Minutes of Funk by the Whole Dan Family and an interpolation of Ain't No Woman by the Four Tops. Friend or Foe contains a sample of Hey What's That You Say by Brother to Brother. Coming of Age contains a sample of Inside You by Eddie Henderson. Cashmere Thoughts contains a sample of Save Their Souls by Bohannon. Bring It On contains a sample of 1, 2 Pass It by D&D All-Stars. Regrets contains a sample of It's So Easy Lovin' You by L. Clough and Hubert Laws. Can I Live 2 contains a sample of Mother's Day by 24 Karat Black. Personnel, charts, see also, It Was Written, Only Built for Cuban Links. References. External links, Reasonable Doubt at Discogs, The Making of Reasonable Doubt XXL. Jay-Z marks anniversary of debut album at Radio City Music Hall The New York Times.